can you imagine telling your kids that you quit because it was hard? Like, I can't imagine telling my daughter that. Like, oh, hey, Dad, how come you didn't do that? Oh, because it was hard. Well, then how the fuck is she going to ever respect anything I say? She won't, because she'll be like, oh, well, Dad, if Dad can quit, then I can quit. Because in her eyes, I'm Superman. You know what I mean? I am like her hero. So if I just like live by that and do those things, which some days it sucks, man. Like, I don't feel like doing shit. Like, I don't want to, you know, have this random meeting or do this, you know, just small things that just fucking irritate me, you know, and trying to like keep my calm, right? Because if she sees me overreact, then she's gonna think it's okay to like throw a fucking fit every time something gets hard, you know. So that's, I don't know, man. I try to do everything I can to like break the cycle from the things that I saw, you know, even if it's like you know, anybody that's in a relationship knows that there's days where you want to fucking rip each other's heads off. You know, it's just like, that's just the way it goes. So like, I try to make sure that, you know, even if my wife gets elevated, I don't reach that elevation. I try to stay calm and keep my cool, right? Because I don't want my daughter to think it's okay for a man to yell at her and scream and yell, or even fucking get in her face and do all that shit. Like, I try to do everything I can to not do that, because I saw the opposite of that. You know, I saw my stepdad tossing my mom through walls and shit, you know? So it was like, I knew what that did to me as a kid, and I don't want her to go through that. So that's the change that I'm trying to make.
You're listening to the Born Primitive Podcast. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Born Primitive Podcast. How we doing, Tone?
Doing good.
I heard that workout you did this morning. I don't envy you. A little Mountain Tough workout, but yeah, I was over there just doing bench press like a big meathead.
Yeah.
So
Got some curls in too.
That's right. Yeah, little tricep extensions. All right. Well, hey, we're really excited for today's guest, guys. Derek Wolfe is a friend of ours and an ambassador to the brand. Originally a big old defensive lineman, went to the University of Cincinnati, and then ended up winning a Super Bowl with the Broncos, which we're going to get into. He's also a big-time hunter and outdoorsman, and spearheaded the Wolfpack Foundation, which we'll get into as well. But super cool guy. A lot of you probably have seen him on Instagram. He looks like a big-ass Viking that you don't want to fuck with. But Derek, welcome to the Born Primitive Podcast, man. How we doing?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me.
Well, Derek, I want to go back a little bit in the beginning, if you're comfortable going there. But I know, you know, you had a little bit of a rough upbringing, and I just, you know, wanted to kind of hear you unpack that a little bit, and maybe how that molded you to become, you know, the athlete and man you would become. You know, obviously, football is not for everyone, especially up on the front seven D line. You guys got to be nasty, man. And I know you played with reckless abandon, so I didn't know if any of, you know, your upbringing molded that at all, or maybe provided you motivation, you know, just to be, you know, a high achiever. But whatever you did, it obviously worked. But I figured we'd start there if you're comfortable with it.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, so I definitely think that adversity. If you look at the NFL, look at defensive linemen in the NFL, most of us come from adversity. You know, there's not a lot of guys that come from a 2-parent home. Everything's cushy and nice and easy, because this is not an easy position. You know, it's a man's job, and you got to be a tough bastard. And you got to be a little bit crazy and a little fucked up to do it. It's just one of those things. You got 2 350-pound, you know, grown ass men trying to move you. You got to try to split that and then tackle Derrick Henry. So, you know, I think that my childhood, I've been playing football since I was 7. You know, so I full contact with the helmet on, and I was taught from day one, you know, to fucking be the hammer, not the nail. So I do think that the things that I was going through at home, football was like an outlet for me to unleash that rage and that anger and that resentment that I had, you know, in a controlled way. That's why it was so great, because I think that a lot of people that come from a troubled background and, you know, a home without any real guidance or parenting and love, they use that anger on other people, just in school or in the streets, or they join gangs, they get involved with all types of shit that's not good for you. But luckily I grew up in an area where there was a lot of football, hunting, and wrestling were the only 3 things that really mattered, where I come from in Ohio. So luckily I had those 3 things to kind of keep me from straying too far from the path, you know, and I was wild. I would do some dumb shit. And I had my fair share of dumbass attacks, but for the most part, I was able to stay on track, and I was able to use the fact that I never wanted to go back to that. I never wanted to go backwards. I was always growing and going upwards. So that's the great part about starting out at the bottom, is the only place to go is up. You know, so I just always looked at it like every day was an opportunity to try to get better. And, you know, some days are better than others, but, you know, for the most part, if I can try to get 1% better every day, then I've won, you know. And I used the weight room, and I used training, and I used wrestling, and I used the outdoors. I used it all as motivation to like better my situation. You know, I just didn't want to be, when you wake up in the morning and you don't know where you're going to get breakfast from, you don't have any lunch money, nobody signed you up for any free lunches or anything. You just have to figure it out. And I did that. I had to just figure things out and figure out where my meals were going to come from. And I was able to land with good families. And once I got to high school, that let me stay with them. And they taught me hard work and how to, you know, living on a farm is, I mean, one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. I mean, it sucks. You know, you have to wake up. I'm already waking up early to go work out. Now you have to get up a little bit earlier so you can feed. And then you have to, you know, go do your workout. And then you go to school. Then you work out again in the middle of the day. Then you work out after school for wrestling. And then at night, I would run again at night. So I was doing like 4 workouts a day plus all the work they had me on. So the idle time wasn't there for me, you know, so I was lucky enough not to have that idle time to go get in trouble, because I would have, because I was a wild boy.
That's awesome, man. And it's so cool you were able to find those outlets, especially like things like football and wrestling. It tends to attract the coaches that are kind of that tough love style, right? And I think as young men, like that's what we need. You get that structure, you know,
yeah.
The strength coach in the weight room that's kicking your ass. You know, if you show up late, you know, he punishes you. Like that's as young men, like we need that so much. And at the time, you know, you don't really maybe appreciate it, but I think as you get older and you reflect back on it, you're like, that's exactly what, you know, at the time you needed it. And it almost makes you want to then be that for those kids, you know, now that you're past that. But that's super cool. And props to the family that took you in and also showed you tough love. You know, you're feeding the animals at 4 o'clock in the morning. It sounds like you had to earn your lodging there, huh?
Oh yeah. Oh, listen, man, on the day I got drafted, they had me out there cleaning pig stalls. So I was not catching any breaks. You know, there's no preferential treatment. I was going to earn my room and board. But you know, they showed me a lot of love, and they showed me a lot of life lessons. You know, it's funny because in life, if your friends aren't changing, then you're not changing, right? So, you know, every point in my life, I've always been, like I said, I'm always trying to go up. And unfortunately, some people get left behind when you do that, you know, because you can't carry everybody, you know, but it's been an incredible journey to get to where I'm at now. You know, I lived the first probably 25 years of my life thinking I wouldn't live past 35, 40 years old. So that's just the way I assumed I would die young, because I lived my life so recklessly as far as, you know, the way I played the game. And I trained hard, but I played really hard too. So I would work hard, play hard, and then party hard. And that was, you know, once I was able to transition out of that into marriage, and then now being a father, it's like, you know, if I've been rebuilt and reborn.
Yeah, Derek, it's a subject we've gotten into several times, I think a couple times with 2 ultra marathoners, but what was the catalyst for that shift that you kind of just described from like, the way we've been describing it on here is like the fuel you're using as your kind of inspiration and drive. And the context surrounding that was that we found, and Bear talked about it himself, these ultra marathoners, is that like, it almost is unsustainable to use like anger, aggression. Like that works really good for like some period of time, but there's a shelf life to that. And at some point you have to transition out of that or you'll burn the damn house down. Did you find that within yourself? And what were kind of the catalysts that allowed you to kind of switch from using, because I grew up very similar. Him and I grew up, I just realized 90 minutes away I'm on the PA border, where you're on the Ohio border, but like the same exact kind of shithole. Bear hears me tell stories about it. Just like Awesome.
It's a shithole.
Beautiful, but just a fucking shithole. So I'd love to hear, what were those kind of catalysts that you kind of had in your life that shoved you into a new kind of way of doing?
Well, yeah, I mean, I played and trained for a long time using anger and rage, because my coaches would always tell me, like, once you get pissed off, you play way better. So I would just, before a game, I would just sit there and ruminate on all the bullshit that happened to me as a kid and all the shortcomings and all the, thinking about, like, I would see teammates with their moms at the games, and yeah, they might not have a dad, but at least they got a fucking mom, so I would like get pissed and I would let that drive me. But you're right, man, that shit it's short lived, and it would get me through like the first quarter of a game. But then what happens in the second quarter, like you've burned out all that jet fuel, and now it's like, I need like this sustainable, diesel fuel to get me through a football game. It can't be like this quick, short burst. It has to be something that's sustainable and that you can do for a long time. Because it's not just game day that you need it. You have to use that on, you're banging on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday, and then you get Saturday of walkthrough, then you're playing again on Sunday. So you have to be able to, and just to do that over and over and over again for a decade, I had to find positive things to drive me. And things changed for me. It was, I would still play angry and tap into that rage, but I had to find a way to it's like, I don't want to go back to it. That's what it was like. It's like, I don't want to go backwards. So I'm going to use this positive, like, look where I'm at now. I'm not going back. And then I would find other motivators like, oh, they've drafted a guy at my position, so now they're trying to replace me, So I would use things like that. So it wasn't always like this crazy psychotic rage that can come out, but sometimes you have to bring that savage out, but you can't have him out there the whole time. You have to be under control. And that was something I learned that coming out of high school and going into college. It was the same thing. Coaches were just like, look, dude, you cannot just lose your fucking mind every time somebody does something to you. Cause I was like, I'm gonna swing now, ask questions later type of guy. So that's just how I was, and it was like, hey, you can't, everything's about the team, right? So once I started putting the team first and put my selfish anger and ego away, I became a much better teammate, which made me a better player.
Hell yeah. No, I can relate to that. The good thing about football, as opposed to like, you were baseball, I played baseball through high school. Yeah. Football, you can get angry and it usually helps. Now, you still got to read your keys and you can't be a total idiot, but you channel that anger into another man in a sport that requires violence. That is the absolute competitive advantage. So I think there's nothing wrong with you, getting a little fired up and using that, because again, you guys got to be nasty up front, man. And us back one layer behind you surely appreciated that when you all did that, making our job easier, making us look good. But I want to ask you something, because this is a theme we've talked about before, particularly as parents. And this is something, I got a daughter, she's 3, so I got time to figure this out. But what I love about your story is you basically came from nothing, and then you ended up becoming a Super Bowl champion, creating financial stability. You're now a family man, right? And it's I just love to see guys that make it doing it the right way and through just fucking hard work, particularly in today's society where there's all this entitlement and victim mindset, and it's like, no, if you apply yourself and you bust your ass, you can create a good life for yourself. But as we know, what do they say? Good times create weak men. You know what I mean? The sequence, right? Yeah. You've created, financial security and a good life for your family, as Tony, you and I have as well. And so I want to ask you, as a father, how do you instill the values in your kids that were the values or that were the reason you were successful? Because I think we all instinctually want to make our kids' lives easier, right? You want to be comfortable. And as Ren gets older, I have to figure out, okay, how do I make her life hard so that she's resilient, but not like hardship? You know what I mean? 100%. And I have no idea how I'm going to distinguish that, because for me, it was mowing lawns growing up, and I mowed lawns from like 7th grade through junior in college, and every weekend, 80% of my weekend, I was out behind a push lawnmower mowing like 20 lawns in a weekend, right? And that was just the values that were instilled in us as kids of like, hey, Like there's no handouts here. Get your ass out there and work. And then when I wasn't doing that, I was in the weight room or playing football or baseball, or whatever it was, going to sport. So I'm so glad I had that, because I think that instilled the values in me that made me successful later on. But it still sucked. I hated it. So I guess, have you thought about this, man, with your kids? Because you could give them everything they ever wanted, right? And give them the easiest life. And that probably is great through maybe when they're 22 and they're out, but then they get out of college and they maybe don't possess the tenacity and the life skills to go out there and get it on their own. And to me, that's a very dangerous thing. And I don't know what the answer is. I just didn't know if you've thought about that at all from your side. And
I think it's something I think about every day. Because first of all, the first goal is to break the cycle that wasn't, because my mother was an abused child, and then she just continued that abuse. She just continued that cycle. And it was like, okay, so how do I don't have a blueprint for what it's supposed to look like, but I know what it's not supposed to look like. Right. So it's like, I think there's a difference between creating adversity and creating trauma. Right. So like there was a lot of trauma in my childhood. It was like neglect, trauma, abuse. Like that was like so I know that I'm already providing a much better life than I had for her. Right. But when it comes to just like teaching them how to, especially with girls, man, it's tough, because anytime there's a problem, I want to be on it and help her right away. Right. It's like instinct to do that, but it's not necessarily good to just like fix every problem that they have. So teaching her right now, what we're working on, what I work on her with is like, she's like a perfectionist already at 4.5 years old, and everything has to be perfect or she's like pissed and like wants to stop doing it, and it doesn't matter what it is. If we're shooting basketball or if we're practicing, like she loves like volleyball for some, like she's only 4.5 and like wants to play volleyball already. She loves soccer, she loves sports, and she loves gymnastics, but if she's not good at it right away, she gets like really frustrated. So now what I work on with her is, look, like, we're not going to quit. I force her to keep doing it. Like, you're going to keep doing it. I don't care how mad you are and how much you don't want to do it, because I see how she reacts when she finally gets it. Like, I'll just give you a small example. We're in the backyard 2 days ago, right? And we were taking shots at the basketball, but she like wanted to shoot it from like this certain point and wasn't able to make it, like wasn't able to get the ball there. And she just kept going and was getting so mad and frustrated, threw herself on the ground. I was like, come on, get up. We're going to keep going until you get it. And then when she finally got it, that's when I praised her. I gave her a ton of praise when she finally got it. And then I'm seeing it, like doing that over and over again with her. I'm seeing her like quit less and less, because once you let your kids quit, it's easier for them to just quit everything. Right. So anything hard, they'll just quit. And I think that's what's happened with society now, is that the gentle parenting, right? You can gentle parent, but also still be like stern and create core values that are, the principles behind like my parenting style are, look, we're going to work hard. Like, you're going to put your effort. I don't want to coach effort. If I have to like tell you to try hard, then there's a problem. Then I've failed somewhere. Right. Like I learned that from coaches. Coaches always told me, I don't ever want to coach effort. So I always made sure that my effort was never a question, right? I was never going to, we call it a loaf in football, that, right? So I never wanted to see a loaf on in film, right? I don't care how many snaps I played. I'm not going to loaf. I'm going to run to the ball as hard as I can every time. So that's like that. That's the mentality that I try to instill in her. We're going to try as hard as we can every time. And then if you keep doing it over and over again, because she was like, I was like, you have to keep practicing. She's like, but I've done it like 100 times. And I was like, you have to do it 400 times. You might have to do it 1,000 times, and at 4.5 for her to like see that register in her head, like, oh, okay. And then see her finally get it. It's like, oh, okay. It's like, she was working on her cartwheels and trying to get her legs straight on her cartwheels. Right. And she was like getting so frustrated with it, but I just made her keep doing it over and over and over again. Now she doesn't, like, it's nothing. And I was, so that's the way I parent. And whenever there's a small problem, right, like, she can't find something, right? She's looking for something in her little playroom, can't find it. When she was really young, I would go in there and find it for her. Now I like force her to find it herself. I'm like, no, you're not going to give up. You're going to find it. And I make her do it, because I see if it's something that makes you frustrated, and then you grind through it, whatever it is. It could be something so minute as like finding her little Elsa dress that she has to find, and then so when she finally finds it, I'm like, see, if you just keep looking for it, you're going to find it, so like you just teach them not to quit. As soon as things get hard, you can't quit. That's when you have to like really press a little harder, because if not, you can't be afraid to fail. Right. You can't, I teach her like just because you failed the first time doesn't mean you're going to fail the 100th time. You might fail 99 times, and that 100th time you might get it, and that's life, man. I struggle with that now, with the life that the career path that I've transitioned into with the podcasting and the filming my hunts and, putting out content, being a content creator. Sometimes that doesn't make any fucking sense to me. And I'm like, you're battling bullshit with like Instagram, and they want to, shadow ban you and all this other shit. And it's like, if I just say fuck it and just do what I want to do and make it fun and don't worry about the bullshit, then that's what I'm doing it for. Right. I'm lucky enough to have set myself up financially to where I don't have to worry about that, but I still like want to be the best at whatever it is I'm doing. So I get frustrated easy. And some days I'm like, you know what, man, fuck this. I'm not doing it anymore. And then it's like, hold on, man, can you imagine telling your kids that you quit because it was hard? Like, I can't imagine telling my daughter that, like, oh, hey dad, how come you didn't do that? Oh, because it was hard. Well, then how the fuck is she going to ever respect anything I say? She won't, because she'll be like, oh, well, if dad can quit, then I can quit. Because in her eyes, I'm Superman. I mean? I am like her hero. So if I just like live by that and do those things, which some days it sucks, man. Like, I don't feel like doing shit. Like, I don't want to, have this random meeting or do this, just small things that just fucking irritate me, and trying to like keep my calm, right? Because if she sees me overreact, then she's going to think it's okay to like throw a fucking fit every time something gets hard, so I don't know, man. I try to do everything I can to like break the cycle from the things that I saw, even if it's like anybody that's in a relationship knows that there's days where you want to fucking rip each other's heads off. It's just like, that's just the way it goes. So like, I try to make sure that, even if my wife gets elevated, I don't reach that elevation. I try to stay calm and keep my cool, right? Because I don't want my daughter to think it's okay for a man to yell at her and scream and yell, or even fucking get in her face and do all that shit. Like, I try to do everything I can to not do that, because I saw the opposite of that. I saw my stepdad tossing my mom through walls and shit, so it was like, I knew what that did to me as a kid, and I don't want her to go through that. So that's the change that I'm trying to make.
Yeah, I think of it almost as like a analogy of like a playground, meaning like, because you said there's such a difference between like allowing them to go through adversity versus like exposing them to trauma. And I think of it, the analogy of a playground is like, your job is to set up a perimeter on that playground and make sure that doesn't get breached, because there are, let's pretend like the woods beyond that playground, there's bad shit that could happen, but your job isn't to pad the whole fucking playground and make sure they don't play. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So like, I always think of that analogy of like, you're there walking the perimeter, encourage them, like, no, go climb that shit, go do that, go challenge yourself, go, if you get hurt, you get hurt. But if they get close to that border and they're trying to break through, and of course this is just a shitty analogy, but like, that's your job then to say like, hey, no, there's a boundary here. Do you know what I mean? And that like, as long as you can maintain that boundary and keep it moving in a direction of like the contained, yet like Derek just said over and over, like, they need to be doing hard shit. They need to expose themselves to things that could hurt them potentially, because like, that's the fucking real world. Do you know what I mean? And if you don't do that and you pad the whole playground and they're just so used to mommy and daddy coming in and saving them from everything, it's like, good fucking luck then once the real world hits. And for some people it never hits, and they live kind of this life of just like, and it's not even that life's easy then, but it comes out in weird ways then. And you meet people like that where you're like, you've never fucking really went through anything really dark in your life. Do you know what I mean? I think you can smell that on people. Like, you meet somebody and look in their eye, it's always in the eyes. Like, you can see it in their eyes, either like you've never actually gone through real adversity. But as humans, I think we crave that, and you'll then manifest it in weird ways. Do you know what I mean? Throughout, like, whether it's in your relationship with another, or even the way you treat your kids. Like, if you don't go through that self or through that kind of exploration, or you could, like, the hero's journey is a way like that Joseph Campbell described it. It's like, you lose the groundedness to then like mentor a kid through that. You know, and that's why it's so important to, as Derek said, hold yourself fucking responsible. Not that, oh, I did that in high school. Like, no, you need to be doing hard shit every day, because then you realize the importance of it with your kids.
Yeah.
So good. And that's the it's all about setting the example.
Exactly.
Right?
More than anything you say, more than
you can't lose the edge because you're like, oh, I put all the work in earlier in my life and now I've made it so I can chill.
Yeah.
Well, maybe technically you could. Like you gotta set the example and you gotta push them. And I think it would be so much easier if I had a son. Like, you know what I mean? Like
we all have all girls.
If I had a son, it'd be like, you know, we'd be out there doing gassers on the beach and, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
And we'd be moving firewood back and forth just for no reason. And like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I can't do that to my daughter, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, so I'll have to figure out a way to put my own spin on it.
My dad used to make us, we had cow, we lived on a farm growing up, and he would just make us, it was mandatory 4 hours every weekend, just pick rocks out of the pasture.
Exactly.
And we thought it was so important until we were like 14 and we're like, Dad, you don't even mow this pasture. Why the fuck are we picking rocks out of it? He's like, it's like you figured it out.
See?
Yeah.
Only took you 14 years.
Yeah.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, I want to get into the NFL a little bit, man. Obviously, you know, just the wildest experience winning a Super Bowl. You know, you were with Peyton Manning, and I mean, walk us through just the experience and kind of just how wild that was, achieving your dream, getting drafted, getting into the NFL, and then you're a rookie. You got to start from the bottom all over again after being, you know, a total stud in college, and just kind of that journey back up to the top. And then, I mean, obviously, winning a Super Bowl is so elusive to so many good players. You know, obviously, you know, it takes a little bit of luck, just kind of aligning, being on the right team, right place, right time, sort of thing. But how incredible was that whole experience? Even just the nerves going into that game, the media, just the hype, and then actually slay that dragon and realize, okay, no one can take this away from me for the rest of my life. Loaded question, man, but I'd love to just kind of hear your take on the whole experience and kind of what you took from it. And then, you know, maybe a sequel question would be, we've talked a lot about transition. And you know, once we talk about, you know, I'd love to get into that later of how you transition and if you've dealt with any difficulties kind of not being quote unquote like the man anymore, right? And now you're living a somewhat normal life, and you know there's a bunch of young bucks coming up and replacing what you used to do for a living, and you're watching on Sundays from your couch. You know what I mean? I'm sure as someone that's a competitor, that probably for most of you guys is a big adjustment. So, but let's start with the NFL, and we'll get to that second.
Yeah. So when I got drafted, I was the 36th pick, 2012 draft. So I was the Broncos' first pick, but it was in the second round because they traded out of the first round. And when I showed up, I was third string. So I was the third string guy, and I'd never been that low on a depth chart in my life. And I was like, holy shit. I was like, you know, nothing's given to you in this league. In the NFL, you have to earn every fucking inch that you get in this league. Every dollar is earned. I mean, it's a fucking grind. And I was like, all right. So day one at training camp, I was like, okay, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to take these jobs. Like, that's the mentality I had. I was like, fuck, like, I love these guys. They're my teammates, but fuck them. I'm taking their job. Like, that's the mentality you have to have as a young guy. You're coming in to take food off of somebody's plate, take money out of somebody's pocket, you know? And I did. I ended up earning that starting job by week one. Just because I played better football. I just did. It just was the way it was. Nothing against those guys. They were great. Those guys, one of them was a first round pick and one of them was like a third or fourth round pick. And they were all like 4 or 5 years older than me. You know, then when I got I realized it, I was like, okay, I can do this, right? I could take these jobs. I did. I just was like, I'm taking it. And then I took it I was like, okay, the first game we played against the Steelers, and Pittsburgh was supposed to take me in the first round. So I just would always find any team that didn't draft me, I just was like, I'm going to punish them for not drafting me, especially the Steelers, because they told me they were going to draft me. So anytime we play the Steelers, and it's where I'm from, that's like our hometown team. You know, I was born in Beaver, PA. So I was born in Pennsylvania, and everybody back there is a fucking Steelers fan. And I was like, I'm going to make them all fucking miserable. So got my first sack on Big Ben and had a big game and had a couple batted balls and a couple tackles for loss. And then just was like, all right, let's go. And then we just catapulted that all the way through the season. I was the AFC AFC West Defensive Rookie of the Year. I was earning like a lot of recognition as a rookie already. And then we go to the playoffs and we lose to the fucking Ravens, and it was like -14 out, right?
Oh.
And it was miserable. It was miserable. I was like, oh, this is awesome because we have Peyton Manning, and I just thought that like it's easy to fucking win when you got Peyton Manning. Like it's just he puts you in good positions as a defense to where you're like not at a disadvantage. So the offense is trying to play catch up all the time that you're playing against. So you just can tee off on people. It's awesome. And then we go the next two. We were all 4 years that I played with Peyton. We were the #1 seed in the AFC. All 4 years, and we made it to one Super Bowl in 2013 and lost, and that sucked. That year was miserable. That was my second year in the league. That was the year I bruised my spinal cord and was paralyzed in the preseason, and then played 2 weeks later. And then I played for 12 weeks straight, was playing really good football somehow, but I was like, I don't know who I was. I was just a robot, and then had a seizure because I wasn't getting fresh blood in my brain. So I bounced back from that and came back the next season, played every single game. Then we lost in the first round of the playoffs. And then year 4, it's a contract year. We come in and we're having like a rocky season, but our defense was unbelievable. Like we had me, Von Miller, Malik Jackson, DeMarcus Ware, Danny Trevathan, Brandon Marshall, Aqib Talib, Chris Harris Jr., TJ Ward. I mean, Darian Stewart. I mean, the list goes on of like all these just dogs out there. And we were like, fuck it, whatever the offense does, we just took it over, right? Because like Peyton had a rule, no music in the locker room before games. Well, we said, fuck that, we're playing music in the locker room. So we started playing music in the locker room.
Now, how did that go? It's Peyton Manning. Did he try to? He was like, guys?
Look, no, he's like, you guys are kicking ass. Keep doing it.
You said this is a defensive team now. So
yeah,
get the fuck out of the way.
Yeah, he knew that it was going to be his last season, and he was out there like this dude was. That's the other thing. Peyton was like the ultimate professional, man, and like never showed his pain. Never showed the pain he was going through. Never showed like. He got booed off the field in Kansas City that season. People forget that. He threw 5 interceptions in the first half. And he got booed off the field. Peyton Manning. And then took a step back for 6 weeks. We went 4-2 in those 6 weeks with a backup quarterback. So, and we played against the Patriots that year. In that stretch, we played against a couple of really good teams and beat them. So we were like, all right, we're going to be good. So finally we get to the end of the season, playoffs come. Peyton's ready. He's feeling good. We're going to play. We have to play the Steelers who just beat us 2 weeks before that in Pittsburgh. So we're playing them at home in the first round of the playoffs, and we fucking kicked their ass. And then we go and we play the Patriots. We hit Tom Brady in the AFC Championship. We hit Tom Brady 27 times in that game, which is wild, and that was when you can land on him. So we were fucking him up. I remember the first drive on third down, I fucking buried him. And I was like, it's going to be a long day for you, bud. Like, it's going to be a long day. But Tom Brady, being the competitor he was, he never flinched. And he still almost came back and beat us. Like, it came down to the last drive, and we fucking got an interception. But he almost beat us. He was driving on us, and almost beat us.
That was in Foxborough?
No, that was in Denver.
Okay.
That was in Denver. And then we beat them. Then we go to the Super Bowl. And the easiest, you talk about nerves going into a game, right? So think about when you're a kid, right? Like 7, 8 years old. What is like, I don't care what it is. I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a professional baseball player, a football player. I remember seeing Reggie White in 1996 win a Super Bowl with the Green Bay Packers. And he was running around the field with the Lombardi Trophy. Had his pads on still with the Super Bowl championship t-shirt over his pads. And I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to do that. And it didn't feel like we were playing in a Super Bowl. It just felt like this is the next game. It was just the next game. Right. So it's funny because we played the game and it was the easiest game that we played all season. Like it felt like I was just floating out there. Like I was in such, like you stay in that zone, right? You just get into the zone and stay in a flow state. And once I was able to get there, I used psilocybin to do it, by the way.
Whoa.
When I was playing. Yeah.
Really?
So I would microdose psilocybin.
There you go, Tony.
I used to do it for baseball, and I heard you talk about this.
Get out of here.
I heard you talk about with this or on Rogan.
Is that the mushroom one?
That's just mushroom. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You popping that in the locker room before the game?
Yeah, just before the game. Yeah, and then I'd do a little bit more at halftime.
What?
And it would fucking. I was like a fucking machine. Like I didn't get tired. Nothing could affect me. Like I was just like steady the whole way. And then we get done with the game, and I'm fucking standing there with the trophy in my hand and the shirt over my pads, and I'm just like, oh fuck, like holy shit, I did it. We fucking did it. We fucking won, and nobody thought we were going to be able to win that Super Bowl because so many things had to go right for us, that were out of our control for us to get that number 1 seed and have home field advantage in the playoffs. And then I'll never forget, we're warming up on the side. We're warming up before the game, and Cam Newton walked by us with fucking gold shoes on and was talking shit. And we were like, we're going to punish him today. And we took his soul. Like he was never the same after that. We took his soul. He quit. He dropped the ball and didn't even jump on it because he was just, he had enough. He just quit. And then it's funny because after I talk about like, it was just the next game, I was like, I wasn't ready to be done with the season because I was having so much fun. Like it was because games were coming down to like the last seconds of the game, and like we would just make a play. Somebody would make a play, and it was like it was like an addiction. I was like addicted to that rush. And then when the season was over, and I was doing like a press conference right after the game, and I was just like, I just want to get to the next season. Like I want to get to the next game. That's all I care about right now, and try to win another one. And it was like I didn't even get to like relish in that because I went and I just like started training right away because I was like, I want to get another one because like that feeling was such a high that I was like, I want to feel that again, and that's why it's so hard. Peyton retired, and I was like, oh fuck, now we got no quarterback, and then we had 4 years of hell. So and then I ended up going to Baltimore, and then I dislocated my elbow. And then I went to Baltimore for 2 years. Then I retired, and it was just like you have to like really be present in that moment in your life, right? Like I think too many people they confuse being present with being content. And I did that for a long time. I always felt like if I get comfortable, I'm fucked. Like I would never let myself feel comfortable. So I always had to like, I would just create adversity in my head that wasn't even there. Right. Like before games, I would create a beef with the guy, like the offensive guard and the tackle, like that they were talking shit about me. And it was like the program, like the dude in the program, he's like, you fucked my sister. Yeah. He's like, I would like make up some shit in my head that they had said about me. And then like go crazy on them in the game. Like I would just be going crazy, and they would just be like shocked. You can shock people with your violence, like just be so violent that they can't even like, they're just shocked. There's a difference between being violent and being dirty violent, right? Like I'm not doing dirty shit, but like I am like the first fucking play, I'm putting my helmet right under your chin, and I'm trying to lock you out, and I want to see your fucking head snap back. Like that was like, I don't care where the ball's going. That's what I'm doing to you. And they would like shock those guys sometimes. They would be shocked by it. Like, holy shit, this guy's not fucking around. And I'm not trying to like, be like a fucking hard ass here or hardo. Like, that's just that was my mentality. Right. And it was crazy because once I had kids, it was like, I was still playing with so much anger and rage that once I got married, I was still able to keep that. But then I had my daughter in 2019, and 2019, I had the best season. I was having statistically the best season of my career because I learned I was playing for something different. It was a different motivation. It was like, I knew my daughter was watching, even though she was like only barely a year old. I knew she was watching. Like I knew that, and that was like, now it's like, oh, now I continue that in my life. Like she's watching me. So I have to do everything I can to be the best version of myself. And I did. I was having the best season of my career. And then we're playing against the Chargers, and I have 2 sacks already in the game, and it's like the last 2 minutes of the game is a 4th and inches play. Make the tackle, I'm getting off the ground, and one of my nose guard, actually my nose guard runs into me, and his shin hits me in the back of the elbow. My elbow goes completely this way to the ground, dislocates.
Jeez.
And it was a contract year, and I was probably going to get another $40 or $50 million contract.
Oh.
And that went out the window, and COVID came, and I couldn't see no teams would give me any looks because I was leading the team in sacks. Like, no team would give me any looks because I couldn't go see the doctor because of COVID. So I posted it. My wife was like, you should just post a video of you training. So I posted a video of me doing 160-pound dumbbell incline presses. And the very next day, I got a phone call from the Texans. And then the day after that, the Ravens called. And that's where I wanted to go, because I felt like the Ravens had the best opportunity to go win a Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson and the crew that they were putting together. And I was already friends with Mark Ingram and knew some guys on that team. So jumped on that team, and we had a championship team ready to go. Played that season. That was my 9th year leading the league in run stops that year. So I was in my 9th season, led the league in run stops. And COVID just happened to fuck us over. Like, we just could not keep anybody on the field throughout the season. We made it to the divisional round of the playoffs and lost to Buffalo by a touchdown or whatever. And then it was just like the next season I ripped my labrum off my hip, and then ripped the other labrum off the other hip. And I was like, yeah, it's time to call it. You know, I had had enough. I was tired of being away from my family. Was ready to transition into something else.
Derek, I gotta rewind a little bit as a fellow mushroom user myself, and I'm gonna provide some context for Bear. So depending on, like, if you do so let's say you do a half gram, like, you're not gonna be like, that's called like a microdose, or even lower than that, 0.2 grams, in that range. But the question I want to ask you, Derek, is were there any moments where you dosed a little too high? Because you'll do that where you, depending, and there's a wide range of like strength when it comes to mushrooms too. So you can eat 0.2 of one and you're fine, and then you get 0.2 of another one and it's triple the strength. So, and I say that because you'll be like, I'm going to take a microdose and go work out, and then all of a sudden you're in the middle of a workout and you're like, like, things are moving a little bit. Did you have any moments? Because for me, it, like, the laugh inside when I heard that you did that, to do that on that fucking scale in an NFL game in front of 40,000 people. Like, did you have any moments where you took just a little bit too much?
How about 40 million?
True.
Come on.
I just mean the stadium itself, though, to think about on mushrooms with that stadium, I can't even fucking imagine.
Well, it was, there's a couple times, like, one, I took a little in the AFC Championship game. I took a little, I didn't take too much because it ended up working out for me, but I took like 2 drops because I had a tincture.
Okay.
And I took 2 drops. I would take 2 drops before the game, and then I'd usually just do 1 drop at halftime. Well, I did 3 drops at halftime on accident. It was like accidental. I was like, oh fuck, there's an extra drop in there. Well, fuck it. And I just drank, because I'm mixing up like all kinds of shit in this, like, it's like a pre-workout basically, to keep my energy levels up and everything. And my focus, keep my focus and everything. So I fucking drank that down, popped another Adderall, and I'm out. I remember it's 3rd down, and I'm in my stance, and they're going fucking crazy. The fans, they're losing their fucking minds. And the whole stadium was just like vibrating. Nothing was like sitting still. Everything was vibrating. Like, I couldn't even hear the pitch was so loud that I couldn't hear it. I could just see the vibrations. I was like, holy shit, everything's vibrating. And I came off the ball, and Vaughn fucked up and dropped into coverage when he wasn't supposed to. So the tackle he just came down and tried to block me too. So I went around him, ran around him, dipped, ripped, and then tackled Tom Brady from behind, and he just happened to have the ball in his hand. Like, I didn't even see the ball. I just was like, I'm tackling him. Fuck it. Tackled him, sacked, stood up and just howled, standing over him. Like, just went fucking crazy. And then it was like, when I was howling and looking up at the sky, like, the stadium looked like it just went all the way to the clouds. Like, it looked like I was like in this arena, just like went all the way to the clouds, and there was like a little bit of light above. And I was like, whoa, that's fucking intense. And then I did it again in Dallas. We were playing in Dallas, and it was the first time that I had done the tincture. And I think it was in 2014, maybe. It was the first time that I had done the tincture. And he was the guy that makes it for me. He's like, hey, if I were you, I'd only take like, one drop before the game and see how that goes. And I was like, okay, well, what do you do when somebody gives you like a pre-workout and it says 1 scoop? I'm taking 2 scoops. So I take 2 drops, right? The first time. And I hadn't like been taking psilocybin very often. Like it wasn't something I did normal on the reg. So my tolerance was not there. And I did it. And it like 20 minutes later, we're going out on the field. So we're walking out of the tunnel and you walk into AT&T Stadium and it was like, I was just standing there, like just staring at everything. I was like mesmerized, but they got these giant LED screens, giant fucking $50 million LED screens. And then there's like smoke everywhere and there's fucking cheerleaders everywhere. And there's like pole dancers up in the corner. And I'm like, what? I'm noticing every little thing about this. It was like I wasn't overstimulated, but I was like so hyper-focused on everything but football that was going on around me that when we go out there for the first series, like defense is on the field first, right? But like the national anthem was fucking insane. I was just like losing my mind during the national anthem, right? Like I was really tripping. Like I was losing I was starting, how your heart starts to beat a little too fast and you're like, oh shit, this is intense. Like that's how I was feeling. I was
that
like,
anxiety sets
what the fuck is going on? Then we get on the field and my linebacker's trying to tell me to play. And I was like, what? He's like, tell me to play again. I'm like, what? It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, he's like losing his mind on me. Right. So he pushes me over to like the line and I just get down on my stance and fucking, it was like, as soon as I like made contact with that guy, I snapped out of it. I was like, oh, okay, fuck, we're playing football. Here we go. Like, but it was one of those things where I was like, okay, I took a little too much and there was a little too much shit going on before the game. So like, I highly suggest anybody that's going to do it, make sure you like take the prescribed amount. Don't like go off on your own and don't double it because that was, it ended up being fine, after like, I don't know, it was like the first couple plays, I was like not there. And then I snapped out of it, and it was fine. But once I figured it out, it was like such a big, especially in training and watching film and being able to break things down and being able to like, it just held my focus for a lot longer than like just taking, the prescribed Adderall or whatever else I was taking,
And have you, I heard you talk about EMDR therapy, which we could get into a little bit too, but yeah. Have you used, like those are more what you would consider microdoses. Have you used psilocybin or any other kind of plant medicine or psychedelics for like therapy sessions where you're pushing the dose to 5, 6, 7 grams and kind of working through, especially with your background? I would assume that would have been super helpful with some of the stuff you've gone through. Have you seen any benefit to that?
Yeah, DMT was a huge help. I did a DMT treatment and it was fucking phenomenal. Yep. And the biggest thing that came out of that, so something that was always missing from my, I talked about my mom, I never really felt like that, when you're as a little boy, just like for your daughter, you are like, as a father, you are the most important, like you got to be the safe space for them. That's how a mother is for a little boy. Like they need their mother because they just need that. That's important for development. And I didn't have that. I never felt that unconditional love from my mom. I felt like I didn't feel love from her. So I never knew what that felt like. And then during this treatment, I was able to feel what that is supposed to feel like. And it gave me closure. And it's like, it doesn't really fucking bother me anymore. Like it used to really eat at me. And like, I'd have to fight that depression like daily. And then it just is gone because I know what it feels like now, because I just always wondered, what does that feel like? And now I know. And it's like, I don't have to use it as a crutch anymore.
Yeah, that's really powerful.
Derek, has your mother made any attempts to rebuild a relationship with you if she's still around?
Yeah, she does. It's one of those things, man, where it's like, I've already developed myself into who I am without her. So adding her into my life, like she had not that opportunity many times to be a mom to me. And it's like, it's too late. it's too late for that. I don't want to expose my daughter to her. She's very manipulative. She's very, she's got, like, I think she has a good heart, but she just can't see past her own. She only worries about herself. So it's like, I just don't want it in my life. I got rid of it. It's out of there. It's gone. So now I don't want to bring it back, and I've entertained it many times. Like some days I feel like maybe I should, but then I'm always reminded every time of why I don't want that.
Yeah, that's tough, man. And it seems like it obviously, I'm not saying this is why she did it, but you see a lot of it with pro athletes. You guys go make millions of dollars and all of a sudden, like, dad shows up out of nowhere and he's like, oh, I want to be present now. And it's like, oh, well, I wonder why, you know what I mean? Yeah. Dude's, he's a grown ass man. He's 30 years old. So I'm sorry, dude, that, it worked out that way, but I think maintaining that boundary is probably a smart move, considering better on the scenario, because that's a tricky one, man. So I'm sorry to hear that. Let's talk about your transition a little, man. I know we talked, the episode that just aired, we talked about this, the transition from the military life, especially the special operations community, leaves for a lot of guys, a big void. You know what I mean? You don't have the camaraderie of the guys, and something that you were really passionate about, that you kind of strive for a big chunk of your life to achieve and obtain, and then that's suddenly removed. As when I went to the Stronghold event with Donnie, I kind of learned through some of those guys that were there, NFL guys, that it's a similar transition with NFL guys and with pro athletes, right? And I'm curious how your transition went. You're not the man anymore, right? You're not this. I mean, you are still fucking dangerous, but you're not maybe seen in that same light. How'd you deal with that? And were there any difficulties in the beginning? And just walk us through that.
Yeah, man, and I wouldn't even say it's so much, it's not like the recognition that you miss. I miss the violence of the game. I miss waking up, having a fucking set schedule that somebody else has already made. And the routine is already, like, it's there. So you just, like, within that routine that they create, then you create your own routine. And it's like perfect. It's so easy. Everything is written down for how you're supposed to live your day to day. Like, it's so easy. It's been like that since college, even in high school, it was like that. It was like, I knew where I had to be, when I had to be there, and it was easy. And then it's gone. And you're just like, well, what the fuck do I do now? And then it's like, you start missing you miss the violence, you miss the routine. I had to create a routine. So I started training. I was like, I'm going to keep training. I had to do a lot of rehab on my hips anyways. So, like, that kept me in a routine. I had found my love of bow hunting again, because I loved bow hunting when I was a kid, and just, you didn't have time for it when I was playing. So I, like, found that love again, and, like, could not wait to get out in September and chase elk. So I used that as, like, my motivator. Was like, okay, I want to be able to dominate, in the mountains and kick ass there. So I focused on that. And then I focused on trying to be the best husband and father, which is, like, can be unfulfilling sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, you get instant gratification in football because you get a good job. You know what I mean? I don't, like, it's not my wife's job to fucking praise me every time I take the trash out. You know what I mean? Like, it's, so it's it's like, sometimes I'm like, well, cause you know how it is. If either of you are are married, you know what it's like, man. Like, the day-to-day grind gets fucking, like, and it's not even, like, hard shit. It's just, like, dumb shit, like dishes and fucking
clean bottles. Yeah,
figuring out who's eating. I always had somebody cooking food for us, because I had to eat so much food. It was, like, unreasonable for me to try to make this much food, right? So it was like, now I'm like, figure who the fuck's cooking dinner tonight, like, just dumb shit like that is like, and then you do it and you're like, oh, well, I did this and I did that. And it's like, then you start trying to keep score, and it's like, well, this is stupid. Like, it's not a competition here. Like, we're a team. Like, I do this, you do that. Like, we should be doing it for the greater good. And so I struggled with that. Like, at first, with just the day-to-day minute things. Cause, like, my job was to, even in the off season, my job was to wake up, go train, eat, come home, sleep, get up, go train again. Like, that was, like, what I did. That was my routine, was just to train and get better at my craft. because I was obsessed with it. And that's what you have to do to stay at the top. You have to do that. So really what it comes down to when it comes to transitioning, I think it's finding something that you like to do. You have to like doing it. And it has to be challenging. There has to be parts of it that you don't like to do, that you have to force yourself to do, right? Like, I fucking hate rucking. Like, I hate it. Like, I don't mind. I like hiking for a reason. Like, when my bow's in my hand and I'm hiking, I'll go 12 miles like it's fucking nothing and be like, oh shit, I gotta go 12 miles back now. But if you just tell me like, hey, to get ready for those, you have to ruck, I'm like, oh, I fucking hate it. Like, it's so boring, and it takes forever. And it's like time consuming. And so that's something I forced myself to do once a week. I'm going to ruck once a week, right? So I'll pack fucking 100 pounds in my pack, throw the Cafaro on and fucking go and try to get like 5 miles in. And it sucks every time. It never gets easier. It just sucks. Things like getting in the cold tub, getting in the fucking cold tub sucks, but I do it because I know that it's like, keeping that edge.
Yep.
You have to keep your edge. I think there's too many guys, especially men that just like don't keep their edge. And they don't know where to direct that edginess into, right? So it's like, how do I direct this? Where's my team, right? Like, who's my team? Who am I doing this for? What am I doing it for? There's no purpose. So I found something that gave me purpose, right? And that is just like bow hunting. Like, I fucking love it. I'm like obsessed with it. So it gives me something to look forward to. So planning those hunts and getting the filming behind it and making sure it looks good and giving like people like a real experience when they watch my films. Like, I want it to be something that I could be proud of. Right. I don't want to, it's gotta be something I would watch. I have to enjoy watching my own films. And I did that in the first year. I was like, man, these fucking suck. Like, I got to do better. So year 2 come in, and when you're dealing with like unknowns, like wild animals, sometimes you're not going to kill. That's just the way it goes. Like, when you're hunting, like, you're just not going to kill. So I was putting all this pressure on myself to get a kill. And then I was like, okay, now I'm not having fun because I put all this pressure on myself to get a kill. So what is it really about? Right? It's not about fucking killing animals. It's about being out there and being in the wilderness and sharing that experience with people about just being out there. And that's, once I figured that out, I was like, okay, now I can have fun again. And then now I'm doing the podcasting, and I love that because I get to talk to people and find out that you can relate. Most people, like, you can relate with most people. Like, all the division that goes on in our country right now, if people just sat down and had a conversation, they'd find out that like, they probably disagree on like 4 or 5 different things, but there's probably 100 other things that they agree on, right? Like, most people on the left, we could probably come to an agreement on most things, right? But I'm not going to ever think it's okay to fucking cut a kid's dick off and invert his dick. Like, we're not doing that. Like, that's not cool. You know what I mean? And I'm never going to think it's okay for pedophiles to be walking the streets, so those are hard no's. But I do think that you should be able to fucking carry your weapon wherever you want, whenever you want. And I think you should be able to smoke weed if you want. Like, and I think that, those 2 things that, most people can agree on.
Well, Derek, I got to correct you. The appropriate politically correct term is no longer pedophiles. It is minor attracted person. So make sure we edit that in production team, because I want to make sure we keep this politically correct. But it's so cool, man, and that's something we talked about in the other episode, is finding purpose is so big in community. And you talk about guys losing the edge. I think that's spot on. There's got to be the next thing to conquer, and I think the best thing is to not dwell on being a has-been and that glorifying that previous chapter. Close that chapter out. Cherish the memories, but okay, start a new chapter. What's this new chapter? How is it going to read? Right. And it's so cool that, especially bow hunt, like, that's such a passionate thing that it is like the perfect fit, right? It's the perfect sequel to what you just did. So I'm so glad you've been able to find that. And as Joe, I want to also touch on, your charity, obviously overlaps with that. So could you talk a little bit about the Wolfpack Foundation and what the purpose is?
Yeah. So the Wolfpack Foundation, it's designed, there's no one specific group that I want to like help, right? But I do want to focus on helping kids that are like underprivileged, right? I want to help underprivileged youth. I also love to do things with vets because, like you said, I feel like I read all the things that I've gone through, and like that whole. I think the biggest thing that you miss when you're done is like the camaraderie of the locker room, right? And I'm sure it's the same way. I know it's the same way in the military because guys tell me that. They're like, look, dude, I miss the boys, like being with the boys and the guys, like where you can just speak fucking freely and there is no politically correct bullshit that goes on. So you just say what you want and you fuck with each other and you do gay shit just to fuck with each other. Like it's hilarious. You know what I mean? Like it's so much fun and nobody gives a fuck what race you are, what gender you are, what sexuality you are. Like nobody cares. None of that fucking matters. All that matters is like, hey, when we get in the shit on the field, can I trust you? That's all that fucking matters. I could give a fuck about anything else. That's all I care about. And that's what I missed the most about football. So now with my foundation, what I've done is I built my high school, which is a tiny school in a very rural area. The average income there is like 17,000 a year. It's very low, which is incredible that people can even live on that right now. And they don't. They're all on welfare, and everybody's struggling. So I built them a brand new field, built them a brand new facility with an indoor field, with a brand new weight room, all that stuff. The field is done. The field house is in the process of going up. It's called the Derek Wolfe Field House. And then something I'm also passionate about, living here in Colorado, we have a governor who is trying to just destroy the hunting community, just take it all away. He wants to take all of it away, introducing wolves, trying to implement hunting bans on mountain lions, trying to reintroduce wolverines. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to focus on trying to raise some money to lobby against that bullshit. Right. So I started this through my foundation and teamed up with a couple of good partners. We're going to do a 3D archery shoot I have a place up in Fairplay. We're going to do a 3D archery shoot up there, and invite only, $300 entry. I'm coming out of pocket for the prize winnings. It's $7,500 to the winner of it. There's a men's, women's, and a youth division, and all of the money that we raise through sponsors and through entries is going to go to Dan Gates and Coloradans for responsible wildlife management. So if anyone wants to check that out, it's savethehuntcolorado.com. And it's important for everybody to get, anybody that loves to hunt or enjoy the outdoors or fish or hike or rock climb, this is going to affect you. Like if they come for hunting bans are just the first step, because they're coming for if they get rid of all the ungulates to hunt, then their argument is going to be, why do you need a hunting rifle? All right. If you're saying, okay, well, now they're going to say, okay, you can't rock climb at certain times because you're going to affect the nesting period of, pick a bird, or, oh, we don't want any more fishing because of this and that. Like, that's what they're coming for. That's the shit they're coming for. So I'm really passionate about really fighting against that. And that's why I'm doing this shoot. If anybody wants to sign up, because it's an invite, when I say invite, I'm going to stop it at 150 people. So I don't have to deal with the permitting and all that bullshit in year one. So DerekWolfe.com, go check it out. See if it's something you're interested in. I mean, it's $300. You're going to come up there and you got a chance to win $7,500. So why not? And it's for a good cause.
No, that's awesome, man. And we've talked about this before. It's just, what do they call it? Ballot box biology or something like that, where it sucks, man, because they're allowing everyday people that know nothing about, conservation and all this to have a vote. And I wouldn't even say average Joe Schmo, hey, do you want wolves in Colorado? You're probably like, cool. Yeah, wolves are cool. But you have no idea what the implications are of that, of destroying a habitat. So it's so frustrating that has now become like a public vote. These are people that have literally zero idea of what those implications are going to be. Whereas like guys like you that are very, immersed in that environment, know immediately what the first, second, third order effects can be. And it just becomes a slippery slope. So it sucks, man. Because I think a lot of people don't realize, I think there's a stereotype that dudes like you that are these, badass hunters with freaking tattoos and, that's just a bunch of hillbillies that love guns and love to kill shit. Right. And it's what you realize once you're in that scene. is that these people are some of the biggest conservationists like that exist. It's just a different type of, you know what I mean? It's not this tree hugging bullshit. It's like, no, these people want to preserve the lands for good hunting, because that, you know, and if you do that, that means the kind of environment is getting taken care of at the same time. It's so you have these people on the far left that you think, oh, those are like the conservationists. It's like, no, they actually, a lot of them don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Ideology,
and you know what I mean? And it's and then the people that are more conservative that like guns and shit, they're the ones that actually want to preserve the environment the right way. So it's funny once you learn more about it, right? And then it makes its way into the ballot box in a place like Denver. They're doing all these votes, and how the heck do you think it's going to go? It's the people that don't know.
Well, they use misinformation.
Yeah.
Like it's so like I was at the mall the other day, and I'm like, if you can imagine me fucking arguing with some fucking tree hugger about how they have a big sign that says stop trophy hunting in Colorado, because they need all these signatures to get it on the ballot. And I said, hey, did you know that every time somebody came up there, I just kept pacing back and forth, because we were there for my daughter, for my friend, because my daughter was taking a picture of the Easter Bunny. So while she's doing that, I'm fucking walking back and forth, everybody that comes up to them and giving them the real information that trophy hunting is already illegal. Like you can't just go kill something and take the hide and leave the meat and everything. You have to, even a mountain lion, you have to process every piece of meat to eat for human consumption. You can't give it to your dogs. You can't do any of that. It has to be for human consumption. So that's bullshit. Bobcat or lynx, they're talking about these lynx. Lynx hunting is already illegal. So stop trying. They're lumping it all together into this fucking lie. They did it with the wolves. They tried to say that the governor put gag order on CPW, say that there weren't wolves here. There already were wolves here. And now we're seeing what happens when you get too many wolves. And now ranchers are dealing with them, and now it's going to cost taxpayer money to fix that problem. They have to pay. They're trying to say, instead of lethal, like that's the only way to deal with these things. Like once a wolf learns that they can just come and eat calves, it's easy to kill. That's what they're going to do, and then they're going to teach their pups to do that too. So now you have an entire pack of wolves that only knows how to hunt livestock. And now they're fucked, because ranchers have to deal with it. And all that's going to happen is they're all going to end up having to be lethally taken out. Like that's what's going to have to happen. You can't just remove them. Like you're not going to just remove them and put them somewhere else. It doesn't work that way. You can't, it's the same way with mountain lions. You can't just move them somewhere else, because you're putting them into another Tom's territory. And he's just going to get starved out. So it's just, they have no clue what they're talking about. They're prying on somebody's emotion, right? Like you said, if somebody came up to me, even now, people come, you like wolves? Yeah, wolves are cool as hell, right? But they're terrible for the deer population, the elk population, the moose population, all of these other badass animals that we get to have. And it'd be one thing if we didn't have wolves already. We already have them. We don't need more. And then you have no management plan for them. It's like, you're really fucking us over here. And I just think it's part of, I feel like a responsibility as a hunter, because as a hunter, I am a conservationist. And the North American model of conservation has brought animals back from damn near extinction. Look at the American bison, look at the mountain lion, look at the turkey. Go ask anybody in the 70s and early 80s if there was turkeys around. No, they're like, no, I never saw a fucking turkey. Now there's turkeys everywhere because of the conservation model that has been implemented. And to me, it's just silly to think that science-based data is going to be just tossed out the window. And these same fucking people that are telling me, oh, trust the science, are the ones that were saying trust the science on, they were saying trust the science on COVID and that fucking farce and that bullshit, on the whole pandemic bullshit that went on. That was a fucking nightmare, right? But I'm supposed to trust the science on that. I'm supposed to trust the science on on an experimental vaccine that's killing people, but something that's proven already to work and bring animals and give animals the best opportunity to thrive. You don't want that. We're not going to believe in that. That's science we don't want to listen to. It's just fucking silly, man. They're hypocrites.
Well, I think it's cool, man, that you're being outspoken about it. Obviously, you have a platform that many don't have. And it takes some balls to kind of put yourself out there, because I'm sure you're taking heavies online, and then it can eventually kind of spill over into the family scene and all that. So we have mad respect for you taking a stand. And I last question on the topic: are you going to be joining us in October for the skydive elk hunt?
I think so, man. I'm trying to get down to 265, and it's just like,
so for the audience. I mean, well, either way, you can join us. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if we don't jump.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to join. I just really would like to be able to jump.
Yeah. So for the audience that probably aren't tracking, we auctioned off a skydive elk hunt experience at the Western Hunt Expo was that February? If it all goes as planned, we'll end up raising, over six figures for charity. But basically, we're going to skydive out of a plane and go to an elk hunt, which, to my knowledge, I don't think has been done before. And we're donating all the profits to charity. So we're going to try to get Derek's big ass to join us. But what weight did I tell you had to get down to? 265? 265,
yeah.
Okay, so we're going to tandem jump Derek in, but there's a weight limit on the parachute that it can hold. And it's actually like 230, but the guy was like, "Hey, if he can 265 is absolutely." What are you walking? Well, you're walking around at what, like 295 right now?
I'm like 290, yeah. Okay, and it's like I'm not even trying to be heavy.
Damn,
it's just
shit.
It's just when I get under like 275, I look sick.
Well, either way, man, it'll be a fun time on Mike's ranch. So if you're not able to make weight, we'll definitely would love to still have you out, and we're going to provide a great experience for those families that are coming out.
Yeah, I'm gonna do my best to get down in it, but I'll be there regardless.
Heck yeah. And I think Dave Sparks, I don't know if you know him from the Diesel Brothers, he's bringing his 60 helicopter out. He's going to be like extracting us from the field when the hunt's complete. So hopefully we can get on that thing and rip around for a while. So it's just a really good time. And we're going to try to do that every year as like kind of our for Born Primitive Outdoor, like to meet our charity goals for, being able to contribute back to wildlife conservation and veteran charities as well. So, yeah, man, hope you can be a part of it. And I know Kurt, is in touch with your side on your event. So more to follow on that, but we're tracking and we definitely want to be a part of that and support it. So, just, stand by for that. But it's in the works. But, Tony, you got anything else?
Derek, have you ever read the Red Rising book series?
No.
You have to. And Bear's heard me recommend. We have like a little cult here in Virginia Beach of everyone that read it. I'm telling you, just your personality, or they do animated audiobooks. It's called Red Rising. You will absolutely love it. And the reason I bring it up is because when you said you howled, in that book, there's like the howlers. And that's like when they're going to war, they howl all the time. So you have to like, I'm telling you, we'll talk about it months down the road and you'll be like, thanks for that recommendation. So yeah,
I'm going to check it out.
Check it out.
Well, hey man, I know you're a busy man, so don't want to keep you, but thanks so much for coming on. And obviously you said you're standing up your podcast soon.
Yeah. So this month, actually in a week, we're going to record our first new one. I already have episodes out. Okay. But they're from like the trial that I did from the first year.
Okay.
And they're pretty good, but I wanted a whole new run of show and a new backdrop. I want to do a professionals, and Ironclad is producing that.
Heck yeah, nice. Well, they're doing ours too, so you're in good hands, man. They do a great job. But thanks so much for coming on, man. I hope obviously we'll meet up hopefully later this year. And of course, if you need anything, hit us up at any time, man. You got my number.
Yep, will do, brother. Thank you.
All right, buddy. Thanks for coming on.